Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and I had a subscriber ask a question which I will flip in here for you guys. And he's saying basically he's got a brother who started training a year ago, trained only his upper body, has completely neglected his legs, and realizes, you know what, I should probably start training my legs. So the question becomes, is he screwed over, or is he going to be able to experience noob gains in his lower body? Alright, so let me put on my +5 hat of weaponsmithing. Work on skilling up my crafting a little bit, and let's talk about this. You know what, the short answer to it, yes, I believe in most cases of this, that person is going to be able to come in and experience, if not noob gains, close to noob gains. Close to noob gains on bringing up their lower body. And you know what, I bet you in a year's time he'll be balanced out. You know, he's got a year training in now, 2 years from now. If he really puts some serious focus and effort in there, he'll balance right out. And here's why I say that. When we talk about the difference between novice, intermediate, advanced, things like that, we're talking about strength levels and muscle mass relative to your frame, relative to your body weight, all of these things. Now, the reason we have different programs for people at different experience levels is because when you reach a certain work capacity and a certain strength and a certain amount of muscle mass, you're capable of generating workloads that are harder to recover from. You can't progress as fast. It's harder to recover from the workload you've made because, like I've said before, you know, someone who bench presses 150 pounds for 10 reps is doing half the work of someone bench pressing 300 pounds for 10 reps. Accordingly, recovering from that for the latter is far more difficult, even in terms of work capacity and relative strength. They're twice as high. Their recovery hasn't doubled. Your recovery does increase with work capacity, but it's not linear. It's not like a direct proportion. Like if you get twice as strong, you're going to recover twice as well, so you'll be able to handle that twice as heavy weight and recover in the same amount of time. That's simply not true. Now, drugs give an edge there, but even that can reach a point of where you can out-train what you can recover from with the drugs. So even that's possible. So that being said, when you look at it from that perspective, it's the recovery end of it. Also, muscle growth itself gets slowed by the more muscle you have because you're reaching an amount of muscle mass around a bone or around a frame. As that gets higher and higher, your body becomes more resistant to adding more muscle to that bone because it says, hey, I've got plenty around here. So the way you've got to look at it, the upper body in this person is capable of generating harder workloads for them to recover from overall, all right? Both the muscle tissue and the peripheral nervous system, organs, everything else. Their legs aren't. Their lower body isn't capable of generating the sort of workloads or the workload density. The workload density that can do that. What do I mean by workload density? All right, doing 6 sets of 10 with 150 pounds is the same amount of tonnage as doing 3 sets of 10 with 300 pounds. It's twice as many reps with half the weight, spread out over several sets. That's a tremendous difference in workload density. Sure, the total tonnage and workload is the same, but one of them is being done in half the time. So it has twice the workload density. All right, that can be harder to recover from, even though the same amount of total work was done. That can be harder to recover from, and it's going to stimulate more adaptation, more growth. But the person has a weaker lower body. They're just not strong enough to generate the same sort of workload densities that makes it harder to recover from, right? So that means they're going to be able to train with nearly their maximum recoverable volume far more frequently because they just can't get as much work done per minute that they're training their lower body at this point. So overall for them, recovery is going to be easier. They're going to be able to come back in and train nearly maximally again more frequently. So that's going to stimulate more growth. Furthermore, while sure their upper body is going to start slowing down a lot, it's going to slow down a lot because they put a year worth of growth on it. It's bigger. The body's reluctant to add more diameter to a muscle the bigger it gets. Well, their legs aren't experiencing that yet. So as far as their legs are concerned, they're untrained. Now, the only time this can become a problem when I say most of the time they'll get noob-like gains or close to noob-like gains is because the person is still capable of generating higher tonnages, higher workload densities with their upper body, which can affect systematic recovery, which could slow down the recovery a little for what the lower body as if they were doing the same work out there while training less intense with the upper, because that intensity and workload you're training with the upper body can affect systematic recovery still. So they're going to have a big advantage, just that maybe the upper body stuff is going to lag them a little bit. The only way they would get around that would be as if they just tried to maintain their upper body. And most guys are probably not going to be willing to do that just to get 5% more muscle gains in their lower body. They're probably not going to be willing to do that. But yeah, what he's doing here is a good idea. It's a good thing because leg strength is important. Just like that video I did yesterday showing that we have multiple studies now, demographic studies showing that people with the highest leg strengths, out of all the performance elements and health markers we check, people who have the highest leg strength have the least illnesses as they get older. Even more so the people that have good upper body strength, which still helps. Leg strength's the biggest correlation. They tend to live longer, they tend to be healthier, they tend to be happier, they even have better memories. All right, so that extra leg strength is going to help him in the long term as far as being an overall healthier, fitter person. On top of that, even if he's training just to look better, too many guys get caught up in the whole, I'm going to train my chest and arms only to attract girls. Well, again, we got plenty of studies that show that most women care more about your butt than they do your biceps. All right, it's not to say that there aren't women who are very attracted to biceps and pecs. They are out there. But more women are attracted to a man's glutes, his ass, than any other muscle on his body. And I mean, multiple surveys and studies have confirmed this. If you're trying to attract women to look better, your butt, which is going to be developed by squats and deadlifts, is probably the most important muscle for you to train. I mean, in all seriousness, it really is. And the science backs that. So, yeah, it's a great thing that this guy's coming in and finally training his body. And you know what? And it does show people that there can be things that you can get wrong early on. And if you're smart about it and you change your mind, it is possible to come in sometimes at a later date and correct the mistakes you made. You may not correct mistakes regarding injuries that caused inflammation, connective tissue tears, things like that. But a lot of things that are lesser things like simply neglecting a body part, you're going to be able to correct that if you're willing to come in and put some work in with it. Now, doesn't mean you might not have injuries in the meantime due to a muscle imbalance that you created, but that's unlikely to happen with an upper body versus lower body disparagement. It's pretty unlikely, so I think he'll be okay. Now, what I would recommend, if this person wants to ensure they're getting the most out of their lower body work, start doing more of their upper body work standing. And I know that seems silly. A lot of people are going to be like, well, what do you mean? Barbell rows, Pendlay rows. Do those instead of chest supported rows, machine rows, lat pull downs. Why? Because they put extra stress on your core and on your lower body. Is it going to be as much stress as doing a squat or a deadlift? No. But you know what? Muscle growth and muscle adaptation is about cumulative fatigue. It's cumulative fatigue, so they can train their upper body while giving their lower body a little extra stimulus. Same thing, do your overhead presses standing. Maybe even do your overhead presses as push presses, which also have a strong lower body component. So by them coming in and training their lower body, they don't necessarily have to treat it like it's a body part split, a stack of Legos when they come in and train their lower body to catch up. Their lower body will catch up faster if they start incorporating upper body movements that put a little bit of stress on their lower body, so that it's not just the squats and the deadlifts that are helping. It's going to be their push presses, their overhead presses, their rows, all these things that they do standing still put a little bit of stress and adaptative stress and stimulation on your lower body. So yeah, it can totally help bring these things up. And you know what? When someone's dealing with something like that, they're dealing with a major muscle imbalance due to neglect. Sometimes those little things like that can start to add up in a very positive way. It might not seem like a lot. It really doesn't, because people will say, I just don't see how push press is going to help me if I'm already squatting. But you know what? Using that same logic, you would never curl if you're already doing weighted chin-ups. Why? Because weighted chin-ups actually outperform many types of curls as far as bicep stimulation while growing your back. But you know what? Plenty of guys still add in curls to their weighted chin-ups and seem to get better growth from it. Even though it's a lesser stimulus, it adds up. I mean, muscles don't care about the single set you do or the single rep you do. Muscles adapt to chronic, cumulative stress being placed upon them. It's never about that one workout you do. It's about that total sum of accumulated fatigue that you subject a muscle to, that adaptative stress that it is subjected to for weeks and months on end. That's what really matters. And so even though it might seem like a minor point to throw these things in, you know what? They're going to help add just a little bit more development. And when you've got a major lagging body part, like say your entire lower body, your legs, due to neglect, taking any little edge you can get, and it's basically free to do so. You know, it's not like you have to come into the gym and put in more work to switch to a standing exercise versus a seated or a machine one. It's no real skin off your back. It's not really any more work for you. It's not any harder to come in and do that. But if it helps you catch up your lagging body parts 3 to 5% faster, for no real new work, I mean, you're still doing the same amount of exercising that you were doing before on the upper body. But if it carries over and gives you an extra advantage there, it might be worth grabbing onto, you know, so that you can get yourself in proportion faster. So just another point to consider there, just to look at with the different things that someone can do in this situation. But to summarize everything again, if someone has neglected their legs for a year and only train their upper body, and they come in and they really push their lower body hard on a good program, they balance everything with recovery, workload and intensities with the recovery, allow themselves recovery time while still running a very good program, I think it's reasonable for them to tap into at least most of their Noob gains still. And I think it is very, very possible for them to have their lower body caught back up to their upper inside of a year, as long as they train smart about it. Totally doable and something I totally support. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.